Chat Sports, it's your favorite hoodat, Carter the Power Bryant, with 12 potential Saints free agent signings. And yes, we got the pom-poms, baby. Let me tell you, Chat Sports, you have to go subscribe to the channel on YouTube so you don't miss a video. And I want to follow you guys back on all social medias at Carter the Power. And of course, the big news is not on the gridiron in New Orleans. Zion Williamson! Yes, the Pelicans are more than likely going to have him as the #1 overall pick as they won the draft lottery. I'm repping those Pels today. I'm a proud Pelicans fan. And this is so cool. Basketball is going to remain relevant in the Big Easy. And, you know, a lot of people are like, well, this is supposed to be a basketball video. What's going on? Well, here's the thing. A lot of people have always pondered this. Would Zion Williamson be a Pro Bowl level NFL tight end? And it's not just me that's pondering Zion as a Saint. Sean Payton himself tweeted it out. He tweeted out a photo of Zion Williamson in a Saints uniform. And let me tell you, it looks pretty good. So with the NFL, there is an age requirement for pro football players. Zion Williamson would have to be 3 years out of college. Obviously, he's just 1 year out of college. So that is fascinating, but the thought has crossed my mind. We know about all the great basketball players that have ended up being great NFL tight ends, Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, and so on and so on. And there's an NFL tight end, Rico Gathers, who never played football at Baylor, and he's currently a tight end for the Cowboys. In fact, they drafted him. So I want to know from you guys right off the top, it's a fun question, and we'll get into actual football players in a moment. Do you think Zion Williamson would be a Pro Bowl tight end with the Saints? Comment Y for yes, and comment in for no. I think he would. I think 2 years of football training, especially if Drew Brees is around, no doubt in my mind. The dude's just too fast. He's too strong. He's 6'8", 285. No doubt he would be a Pro Bowl level tight end, especially with a good quarterback. Anyway, enough about Zion. More about actual football players. Let's dive into 12 potential Saints free agents. First things first, the Saints do have $8.6 million in cap space, and knowing little about the cap like I do, it's kind of tough how it works about who you can cut, how you save salary and whatnot. But what I can tell you is $8.6 million is enough to make a few more splash free agent signings. And the Saints have already done that with Sylvester Williams, a former first-round pick. He was a big part of that Denver Broncos championship team that beat the Carolina Panthers a few years ago. A big space-eating nose tackle. He's not necessarily the playmaker that a Sheldon Rankins or even a Cameron Jordan is, but he's a space eater that's going to provide some very important depth. So I'm all in on the Sylvester Williams signing. He's in his early 30s. I still think he could play at the NFL level. But what I want to get into first, normally it goes offense and then defense. I want to start with the defense because I still think the Saints could make a huge upgrade up front. And to me, he is the best free agent out there. It's Ndamukong Suh. And I understand you have to deal with the character issues. I understand that he can be a nuisance in a locker room. We know about his history with stomping on players on the field and him being a dirty player. But we saw last year with the Rams, and Ndamukong Suh was okay during the year. But in the playoffs, when he was motivated, he was a difference maker. And it wasn't just against the Saints. It was the entire playoffs. New Orleans could not block him last year. So if you get a motivated Ndamukong Suh, he could be the difference between you just staying in the NFC Championship game and you actually going to the Super Bowl. And I understand the Rams had Aaron Donald, and he's a big reason why Suh had such a great amount of success. I totally get it. But you could tell Ndamukong Suh wants to go to a contender. So, I like that move. I think the Saints should make that move if they're interested in making it to the Super Bowl, because you do have Sheldon Rankins coming off an injury. You don't know what Mario Edwards Jr. is going to provide to you. So, out of all the moves, I would be very interested in Ndamukong Suh coming to New Orleans. Another free agent the Saints should take a look at is Jamie Collins, a heady linebacker, played for the Patriots. That's where he got his name out there, was a Pro Bowler back in 2015. And for the last few years, he's been a decent player for the Cleveland Browns. It's important to develop that linebacker depth. And I think Jamie Collins, not only as a defensive player, but also a potential special teamer, would be a good fit in New Orleans. Now, this next player is a guy that I kind of got to know in college, Morris Claiborne. I interviewed him probably over 50 times. He was a great LSU cornerback, drafted number 6 overall by the Dallas Cowboys. Didn't necessarily pan out. Spent his last few years with the New York Jets. Turned out to be a decent corner. Is he awesome? Is he Pro Bowl level that a lot of people thought he would be? No. He's kind of performed under expectations, especially considering all the other LSU defensive backs have actually turned out to be Pro Bowl level players, except for him. But he can still play. The Saints have a need at putting some more depth at the cornerback position. Morris Claiborne, he'll be motivated, playing in his home state of Louisiana. I will take him any day of the week. So, before we continue, it is important that you go subscribe to Chat Sports on the Tube. Never, ever, ever miss a video. Not only Saints, but 49ers, Cowboys, and all the teams that Chat Sports covers. So check it out for yourself. I want to keep it going with Shane Ray. This is a pass rusher for Denver that honestly turned out to be a good player, double-digit sack potential, learned a lot from rushing alongside Von Miller. I don't know if he necessarily fits the Saints defense, but if you can get a guy that can provide some pass rushing depth, it'll be huge. And obviously, the Saints have Cameron Jordan, who's one of the best players in the NFL, and they obviously are hoping Marcus Davenport takes that next step. I think the Saints do need to get another pass rusher in the room just to provide a little extra pressure on Davenport, and I think Shane Ray, the former Mizzou pass rusher, would be a good fit in certain situations. I'm also an Eric Berry guy. We all know his story about overcoming cancer. We all know about Eric Berry being a Pro Bowl level safety for the Chiefs, one of the best safeties ever when he was at Tennessee. The Saints obviously made 2 acquisitions in the draft at safety, and I think their starting safeties are set for right now. I like what Marcus provides to the secondary for the Saints at safety. But when you get a player of Eric Berry's caliber, when he's healthy, he could be a difference maker for the Saints. Not a big position of need, but he's also a really, really, really good player. And I would certainly think he would be a positive influence on the locker room. And this was a guy I loved at Auburn, Josh Bynes. He ended up being a decent linebacker at the NFL level. He's played a lot of games, hadn't really started in a whole lot. Last year he had the thumb injury for the Arizona Cardinals. He's now, to me, a backup linebacker in the NFL. And guess what? The Saints have Demario Davis coming back. Bynes is a very similar player, a tackle machine. I think he would be a good fit for the Saints. Now, there's a lot of other players out there, such as a safety by the name of Trey Boston, who's actually younger than all these players we just mentioned. He's one defensive free agent that I wanted to include, but I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. Comment a defensive player below who you think the Saints should target. And out of all these players, do you think they're a good fit or not a good fit? Let us know in the comments, okay? And guess what? I comment back. So get to it, okay? Let's move over to the other side of the football, and we're not going to start with one wide receiver. We're not going to start with 2 wide receivers. We are going to start with 3 potential Saints wide receivers that could be added to the room. And we all know about the Saints wide receiver depth. It's Michael Thomas and everybody else. So Cameron Meredith is coming off the injury. The Saints are hoping for the best from Cameron Meredith. You also have Ted Ginn Jr. coming back. You also have Traquan Smith, who you drafted last year, and he had a decent rookie year. So the first wide receiver I want to bring up is one that you guys are just going to hammer me about in the comments. Perfectly fine. Kelvin Pudgy Benjamin. And yes, I say Pudgy because, hell, I'm in better shape than him probably right now. And I got a belly the size of Montana. Anyway, Kelvin Benjamin, I think he can still play in this league. He just needs the proper fit. He was in Carolina. Obviously, he had his differences with Cam Newton. Now I think if he had the opportunity for, I guess you could say, a new chance in a new offense, he may or may not take it. Who knows? But the upside is there. He's a big wide receiver. We all know how good Drew Brees is at throwing at big targets, who is good at making contested catches. Kelvin Benjamin last year played a few games for the Chiefs. Didn't pan out. The Buffalo Bills fit was terrible. He got cut. But if you motivate him with 2 opportunities potentially each year to go up against his former team, who knows? He might seize the opportunity. Moving along to Michael Crabtree. We know about Crabtree's history in the NFL and what he did at the San Francisco 49ers. And then he spent some time in Oakland where he was a really good player with Derek Carr. And last year his numbers did take a dip, but that had more to do with Baltimore's quarterbacking situation. Joe Flacco never really got fully healthy, and then Lamar Jackson took over. The offense completely changed. So I know you look at his numbers, those can be deceiving, and we know Drew Brees is the polar opposite quarterback to Lamar Jackson. He can make any wide receiver look good. And we know one thing about Michael Crabtree, and this is my favorite thing about him. He is an excellent receiver in the playoffs. He's played some of his best football when it matters the most. So Michael Crabtree is a guy that I would love to see fit into the Saints offense. And last but certainly not least, we talked about him last video, and we'll bring him up again, a guy that was in the Saints locker room. Hell, I knew some people that bought Dez Bryant jerseys. Throw up the X, baby! Throw it up! Wakanda! Anyway, why not take a chance on Dez Bryant? Why not give him another opportunity to play for the Saints? You know he's into it. He's tweeted out that he's interested in coming back, and the locker room liked him. We saw it last year. After a few days after he got injured, the Saints played the Bengals. Mark Ingram and everybody was throwing up the X. So let's give Dez Bryant a shot. Why not? And we'll see if he's actually up to health. Make sure you subscribe to everything that I do at Carter the Powers, where you can find me. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all the good stuff. And of course, I follow back. This guy's a sleeper, but he's at a huge position of need. And I saw him last year do something that the Saints are going to need to this year, or the Saints potentially could use him for this year. An emergency center. Now, we all know about Nick Eaton. We all know about the center that they drafted out of Texas A&M, Mack. And everyone's hoping that he turns out to be a really good player. They used a second-round pick on him. They had to get up and get him Eric McCoy. But if that doesn't work out, it is important to have a good center on the roster who can step in. Travis Swanson is that guy. Had a great start to his career coming out of Arkansas with the Detroit Lions. Last year, in an emergency role, he played some pretty good center for 11 weeks with a bad Miami Dolphins offense. So Travis Swanson, yeah, he's in his 30s. Yeah, he's up there in age, but I think he could provide some much-needed depth to the center of that Saints offensive line, and he can also potentially play some guard for you as well. Of the free agent running backs that are available, Jay Ajayi is the best, but Chris Ivory would be the best fit for the Saints. And any one of you that are a big Saints fan, you all know what Chris Ivory did with the Saints a few years ago. An excellent receiver. He already knows the offense. He already has a rapport with Drew Brees. Why not bring Chris Ivory back? And last but certainly not least, another former Saint who actually never took the field with the Saints, Jeremy Parnell was a great offensive tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was flipped from defensive end to offensive tackle when he was with the Cowboys a few years ago. He was not cut once, but cut twice by the New Orleans Saints, and that was because he was playing defensive end. It wasn't the position he actually became great at in the NFL. He's an offensive tackle that could play both left and right tackle in an emergency role, and I think he could provide some depth to that Saints offensive line. And I've said the word depth 1,000 times, and the reason why I say that is because most of these guys that I mentioned, I really don't think could just step right in and be stud players for the Saints. In fact, the Saints roster is so complete to begin with, I'm not sure if they're going to be making all that many more free agent signings. But before I get out of here, in the comments below, is there an offensive free agent that you think the Saints should be interested in? Comment below. I comment back. I love to interact with you guys. So let's run through it again, okay? The 12 potential free agents: Ndamukong Suh, Jamie Collins, Morris Claiborne, Shane Ray, Eric Berry, and how about this? I think this would be a good fit for the Saints: Josh Bynes. I'm a little bit higher on him than other people are. Also, on the offensive side of the ball, Kelvin Benjamin, Michael Crabtree, Dez Bryant, and I already know what some of you are going to say about Kelvin Benjamin. He's going to eat too much in New Orleans. You're probably right, but take a chance anyway. Travis Swanson, Chris Ivory, and Jeremy Parnell. There you go. Fly, Pellies, fly, baby. I still can't believe it. Zion, come play tight end. Why not? You'd be the best red zone target. Anyway, we're out. At Carter the Power, at Chat Sports. See ya.